the proposal that's on the ballot, and that's the one we have to look at to see if that makes sense. And if you look at the solvency/income tax proposal, what it does is increase taxes significantly in the city, raising local tax revenues from approximately $8 million to nearly $12 million a year. The increase to the average homeowner, according to the mayor, is 35%. That even after all that, in the third year of the solvency plan, the city is still spending more money than it's taking in. In the last year of the quote temporary tax, the city is $2.5 million in the hole, spending more than it takes in, and has spent all reserves. That's not a plan that has an end in it. That's just kicking the can down the road and not looking at any of the real situation to take care of it. Now, the only way we're going to be able to realistically look at it, the city has been working on this income tax plan for approximately 5 years. Once the ballot issue gets defeated, then we'll hopefully all get together and come up with a consensus way of dealing with the city's problems.
I think as far as I know, there are two plans. One is cutting the budget, which has been going on since 2001, which I mentioned earlier, 30% administration, 12% in the police department. The other is income tax. There is no third alternative that I'm aware of that is physically possible. Mr. Murdoch spoke that said that the mayor said that 35% increase for homeowners. He's referring to a memo that I wrote as a resident in 2005 before I was mayor. And that number includes revenue from non-residents. So for him to say that it is 35% increase to homeowners is incorrect. But I think in the bigger picture, if you take a look at that document and read it, the main point of it is that an income tax will take Ypsilanti up from being one of the cities with the lowest amount of revenue per household and put it in the middle with other Michigan cities in southeastern Michigan. And in that way, instead of having us at the beginning, at the leading the pack toward fiscal insolvency, it puts us in the middle. And I think that's a much safer place to be. So that's why I think income tax overall is not a good solution, but it's the best one we have at our disposal. If there was another plan that didn't call for raising taxes, that kept our services where they're at today or even increased them, I'd love to hear it.
This question is for any of the panelists who wish to speak on it. How has an opposed income tax affected similar-sized cities as Ypsilanti?
With the Chair's permission, I'd like to introduce Paul Tate, the co-chair of the Campaign for Ypsilanti's Future, to answer that question. He is the director of FEMCOG, which is the Southeast Council of Governments, and he knows the statewide picture and would probably be in the best position to answer that question. May I bring him up? Or pass this down? Okay.
We want equal time. Whatever that is.
It's up to the chair.
Whatever you want to do.
Okay, well, suffice it to say that this is a statewide problem, and cities all over this state, not just in southeast Michigan, are suffering under the financial losses because of continuing tax cuts at the state level. The current tax structure in the state is not working. It's not working for older cities, it's not working for public school systems, and it's not working for colleges and universities. And that's why you're seeing your fees escalate, you're seeing your tuition escalate, and we're running into problems with inadequate funding. I'm reading just briefly from the Ann Arbor News September 20th article. Former Senator Harry Gast, a St. Joseph Republican who headed the State Appropriations Committee for 19 years, said he doesn't see any plan being put forth by lawmakers that will solve the fact that the taxes now in place no longer are adequate to meet the state's needs. quote, there's a structural problem with the budget that they're not even addressing, unquote. It's impacting all of us, not just the city of Ypsilanti. We're impacted a little quicker than some of the other cities because we're very small. We're 4 square miles. The university is about 25% of the land area. Of course, you don't pay, the university doesn't pay taxes. So by comparison, the city of Ann Arbor is about 29 square miles, and the University of Michigan is about 9%. So it's hard for us. It's a challenge.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that there are 22 cities in Michigan that have an income tax, and they range from Highland Park, Hamtramck, to Lansing, Ionia, thank you, Lansing, Port Huron, Grayling, Flint, Big Rapids, and Albion. So I think the question isn't, you know, is the city do well with an income tax? Really, the question is anybody doing well with or without an income tax? And I think due to the state structural financial issue that you can turn on the TV and see it tonight, the answer is nobody's doing well. I know if you read the paper about Ann Arbor went through a round of budget cuts this spring. So again, I think it's really a question of what kind of services we're willing to pay for and how we're going to do it.
The next question is for Student Body President Greg Jones. How do you think that the income tax will affect EMU's retention rate and its ability to recruit new students?
Well, I have to imagine that it would affect it negatively. Again, as you look at the list of the cities that have income tax, few of them are containing colleges that we kind of associate as our peer institutions. And so some of the institutions that we sort of compete with the same students, then it's just another added issue that they would that they're able to bring up. You know, there's no income tax in those cities. There is one here. It's just another kind of deciding factor. And I think Eastern still will be able to recruit great students based on the merits of our university alone. But I can't imagine that it would necessarily be a positive selling point. However, on the other side as well, if the services are cut back to a point that the city itself is becoming overly unsafe because of lack of police protection or a lack of response from fire emergency, then that's obviously going to negatively affect the retention rate as well. So that's the way that I see it right now.
Most students are trying to be full-time students and part-time employees, and so that's reflected in their income. If we were to take a student part-time who's earning, say, $1,000 a year, there's a $1,000 exemption, you would pay 0 taxes under the income tax. If you earn $3,000 a year, then your tax burden would be $20 a year. And I have to wonder, and this is perhaps a question for the city manager, if someone's income level is low, that their tax owed is $20 for the year, is it worthwhile for the city to collect that?
I can't say with any certainty since we don't have income tax in place, but in our discussions with other communities that we've talked to, that certain other communities that collect income tax do roll on somewhere where they determine the amount of tax that's collected isn't worth the expense of going after that. So I can't say with any certainty at this point.
So in other words, there's likely to be a threshold below which taxes would not be collected. Thanks.
I guess to answer the question about retention and attraction,